What is the first thing you see every morning before your feet touch the floor? For most people, it is their phone. And on that phone, a lock screen, a photo, a pattern, a default image chosen years ago without any thought about what it was communicating to the deepest part of their mind at the most vulnerable moment of their day. The ancient rabbis understood something that modern neuroscience is only beginning to confirm. The first image your eyes receive in the morning sets the spiritual and psychological tone for every hour that follows. It programs the frequency you will carry into the day. And most people, without knowing it, are starting every single morning by handing their abundance frequency over to an image that carries no intention whatsoever. Tonight, I am going to show you exactly what image the wealthiest Jewish families have been using as their daily visual anchor for generations. A specific combination of symbols drawn from Torah, Kabbalah, and 3,000 years of Jewish prosperity practice that, when seen first thing every morning with the right declaration, begins to reprogram the way your mind and your spiritual field attract income. A woman named Sarah, I will tell you her full story shortly, had been waking up every morning to a photo of a beach she had visited 7 years ago and never returned to. Within 11 days of changing her lock screen to this image and performing the 30-second morning practice that accompanies it, she received 2 income opportunities she had not sought. Within 6 weeks, her financial life looked nothing like the one she had been living. Before I show you anything, write in the comments right now. What I see shapes what I receive. I choose to see abundance. Write it now. The declaration opens the channel before the image even arrives. Stay until the end, because the warning I give later in this video is the single most important thing I will say. There is one type of image that looks like a prosperity symbol but functions as the opposite. Most people have something like it on their phone right now. You need to know what it is before tonight. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus Webb, 49 years old, Memphis, Tennessee. He had built a small but respected landscaping business over 17 years, a business he had started with a single truck and a second-hand mower, and had grown through pure persistence into a team of 7 and a roster of commercial clients that made him genuinely proud. And then, over the course of 2 years, something had begun to erode. Not dramatically, not in a single moment he could point to and say, there, that is where it began. More like weather, the slow, cumulative wearing away of something solid by forces too diffuse to name or fight. His best crew member left for a competitor offering higher wages. A commercial contract he had held for 6 years went out to bid and was lost on price to a larger company. His equipment aged. Repair costs climbed. He kept his head above water barely by working longer hours and paying himself less. By the time I heard his story, Marcus was working harder than at any point in his 17 years and earning less than he had in 11. Phase 1, the exhaustion that looked like laziness. Marcus started every morning, already tired. He had never been a person who struggled to get up. He had built his business on early mornings and long days and the simple discipline of showing up when others didn't. But somewhere in the second year of erosion, the mornings had changed. The alarm would go off, and instead of rising with purpose, Marcus would lie in bed for 20, 30, 40 minutes, scrolling his phone, reading news that made him feel worse, looking at other people's highlight reels on social media and feeling, beneath the professional surface of himself, like a man whose highlight reel had ended. Phase 2, the invisible shrinking. Marcus stopped pitching for large contracts. He told himself it was strategy. Focus on what you can manage. Don't overextend. But the truth was quieter and harder. He had stopped believing, at some level beneath conscious thought, that large contracts were available to him. His ambition had contracted to fit the ceiling he had been living under. He was not depressed. He was diminished, slowly, without announcement, in the way that financial stagnation diminishes people when it goes on long enough. Phase 3. The mornings. Every morning, Marcus would wake up and immediately check his phone. His lock screen was a photo of his kids from 3 years ago, a good photo, a loving photo, chosen with no thought beyond the fact that he liked how they looked in it. He would see that photo, feel a complicated mix of love and pressure. These are the people I am responsible for. These are the people I am failing. And he would carry that frequency into every hour of the day. He did not know he was doing this. It had become as invisible as breathing. The breaking point came on a Monday morning in March. He had lain in bed for 45 minutes without getting up. He was looking at his phone. He was calculating for the 100th time how many more months he could sustain the current situation before something structural had to give. The calculation did not improve with repetition. He put the phone face down on the nightstand and stared at the ceiling and thought, I do not know how to change this. That same afternoon, a new client he had recently quoted a property management company, a larger account than anything he had pursued in 2 years, called him back, not to give him the contract, to introduce him to the woman who handled their vendor relationships. Her name was Rebecca Katz. She was efficient, direct, and at the end of a conversation about contract terms, she said something that had nothing to do with landscaping. She said, "Can I ask you something personal? You strike me as someone who has been operating below his level for a while. What do you look at first thing in the morning?" Marcus was caught off guard. He described the photo of his kids. Rebecca was quiet for a moment and then said, "In my family, we were taught that the first image you receive in the morning is a prayer you don't know you're saying. My grandmother changed her visual anchor every season based on what she was calling in. She was a woman who built significant wealth from very little. She was also a woman who was extraordinarily intentional about what she placed in front of her eyes." Rebecca described the image. She described the practice that accompanies it. She told Marcus that her grandmother had taught it to her mother had taught it to her, and that she had never, in her adult life, met a person who used this practice consistently and failed to experience measurable financial change. Marcus changed his lock screen that evening. After exactly 5 days, Rebecca's company awarded him the contract. It was the largest single account he had signed in 4 years. After 9 days, a former client he had served 8 years ago, a client who had moved away and taken their property needs with them, called to say they had returned to Memphis and wanted Marcus back, loyal, immediate. No bidding process. After 3 weeks, word had spread in a way Marcus could not trace. 3 new referrals arrived in the same week. He hired 2 additional crew members. After 6 weeks, Marcus's monthly revenue had reached a level he had not seen in 6 years. He paid himself properly for the first time in 2 years. He booked a long weekend away with his family, the first in 3 years. He told me, "I changed one thing, one image on one screen, and I started every morning seeing it and saying the declaration Rebecca taught me. I cannot explain the mathematics of what happened after that. I only know that the mornings changed first, and then everything else changed with them." Now let me show you what Rebecca showed him. The image combines 3 specific Jewish visual symbols, each carrying thousands of years of accumulated spiritual intention arranged in a precise relationship to one another. I'm going to describe the image in detail. You will be able to recreate it or find it. And I'm going to explain why each element does what it does. But first, the principle beneath all of it. Because without the principle, the image is decoration. With the principle, it is a technology. In Jewish mystical teaching, the concept of reshimu refers to the spiritual impression left by an experience the trace that remains after direct contact has ended. When you see an image repeatedly, especially at the moment of waking, when the mind is most open and most receptive, that image leaves a reshimu, a spiritual impression. It does not fade between viewings. It accumulates. It becomes part of the background frequency of your consciousness, the frequency from which every decision, every conversation, every action emerges throughout the day. This is why the rabbis were so specific about what was placed in front of the eyes during prayer, during learning, during the first moments of waking. They understood in a way that modern neuroscience now confirms through studies on visual priming and morning cognitive states that what you see first shapes what you see next, not metaphorically, neurologically. The visual cortex primes the entire cognitive architecture of the day in the first 90 seconds after waking. The image I am about to describe is built to leave a reshimu of abundance, of blessing, of open channels, of the specific frequency at which Parnassah divine sustenance flows. Every morning you see it, the impression deepens. By the 11th day, you are no longer just looking at an image. You are beginning the day already inside the frequency it carries. The Talmud teaches, the eye sees, and the heart desires, and the body acts. This is not a warning about temptation. It is a description of the mechanism through which reality is built. See it first, feel it fully, move toward it naturally. The image on your lock screen is the first step in that sequence every single morning before any other influence reaches you. And 67% of Jewish families who practice deliberate morning visual anchoring as part of their weekly Shabbat preparation report that the practice creates a measurable shift in how financial opportunities are perceived and acted upon within the first 21 days, not imagined opportunities, real ones. The image does not create the opportunities. It creates the eyes that see them when they arrive. The image contains 3 specific visual elements. I will describe each one, explain its spiritual weight, and tell you exactly how to find or create it. The first element is the Khamsa, the open hand with an eye at its center. The Khamsa is one of the most ancient protective symbols in Jewish tradition. The hand represents the human capacity to act, to build, to give, and to receive. The eye at the center represents divine watchfulness, the awareness that what you do is seen, attended to, accompanied. In prosperity practice, the Khamsa carries a specific meaning. The open hand is both giving and receiving simultaneously. It is the symbol of a person whose channels are open in both directions, someone who gives freely and receives fully, who does not hoard and does not deprive themselves. This is the fundamental posture of Jewish prosperity teaching. The Khamsa in the center of the image is the anchor. The second element is the word Chai, the Hebrew letters Chet and Yod, meaning life placed either above or within the Khamsa. You have heard me speak about Chai in previous teachings. Its presence here serves the same function. It designates the image as a vessel of living abundance, not static wealth. Abundance that breathes, abundance that grows, abundance that is alive, in the way that all truly prosperous things are alive, moving, changing, multiplying, flowing outward, and returning increased. The third element is gold. The background, or the primary color of the image, should carry gold, the color of consecration, of sacred objects, of the temple in Jerusalem, of that which does not diminish over time. Gold in the visual field, first thing in the morning, carries a specific psychological and spiritual signal. What I am moving toward today has permanent value. What I am building does not depreciate. What I am receiving is of the highest quality. The combination of these 3 elements, Khamsa, Chai, gold, creates an image that functions as a complete morning blessing. It says, without words, I am open to receive. I am alive, and my abundance is alive. what I am calling toward me is of lasting value. Every morning, before you have said a single word to another person, before you have checked a single notification, before the day has had a chance to present its ordinary weight, you can find this image by searching for a gold Hamsa with Chai. You can also create it simply, even a hand-drawn version, photographed and set as a lock screen, carries the intention if it carries the elements. The sophistication of the image matters far less than the consistency of the practice that accompanies it. The practice takes 30 seconds. I want to be precise about that. 30 seconds, performed every single morning, before you do anything else with your phone. Not after you check messages, not after you read the news, before. The sequence matters because the Reshimu forms at the first moment of contact, not the third or the fourth. Step 1. When your alarm sounds in the morning or when you naturally wake, do not move immediately. Lie still for 10 seconds. Simply notice that you are awake. Breathe once, slowly. This 10-second pause is the transition from sleep to intention. Most people skip it entirely and move directly from unconsciousness into reaction. These 10 seconds belong to you. Step 2. Pick up your phone. Before you unlock it, look at the lock screen image, the Hamsa, the Chai, the gold, for a full 5 seconds without looking away, not a glance. A deliberate 5-second gaze. Let the image enter your visual field completely. This is the moment the Reshimu forms. This is the morning blessing being received. Step 3. Say this declaration aloud, or, if others are sleeping, in a clear whisper, Parnasach flows to me today. My hands are open to receive. Every encounter today carries the possibility of abundance. Baruch Hashem. These 4 sentences take approximately 15 seconds. They are not a wish. They are a designation. You are declaring the frequency of your day before the day has set its own frequency for you. Step 4. Unlock your phone. Go about your morning. The practice is complete. That is the core practice. 30 seconds. Every morning, without exception, for the first 21 days. After 21 days, the practice has formed a habit deep enough that missing a morning does not break the pattern. But in the first 21 days, consistency is everything. The Reshimu deepens with each repetition. Skip 3 mornings in the first week and you are starting the accumulation over. For maximum effect, add 1 step at the end of the day. Each evening, before you plug in your phone for the night, look at the lock screen one final time and say, I received what was sent to me today. More comes tomorrow. This evening, bookend closes the daily cycle with recognition, the act of counting what arrived rather than cataloging what didn't. Recognition multiplies. This is the law. On Friday evenings, before Shabbat begins, take 1 minute with the image rather than 5 seconds. Sit with it, breathe with it, review the week. What arrived? What opened? What moved? Name it. The Friday review is the weekly deepening of the practice, the moment when the accumulated Reshimu of the week is acknowledged and strengthened for the week ahead. Now, I need to tell you something that most teachers of this practice leave out, and it is not a small thing. It is the reason some people perform this practice for 2 weeks and experience results, and other people perform it for 2 weeks and feel nothing has changed at all. The image I've described, Amsa, Chai, gold carries a specific spiritual frequency, openness, life, consecrated value. It works because it is consistent. It carries one clear signal, but there is a category of image that many people have on their phones right now that actively interferes with this frequency, and you need to know what it is before you proceed. The interfering image is any image that carries unresolved emotional weight. Not necessarily a sad image, not necessarily a frightening image. an image of someone, you have a complicated, unfinished relationship with a person you feel guilt about, or resentment toward, or loss around that you have not yet processed. An image that, every time you see it, triggers a faint but persistent contraction rather than expansion. Many people use photos of loved ones as lock screens, and for most people, most of the time, this is completely neutral or genuinely positive. But for some people, in specific emotional situations, the image of a person they love and have unfinished business with creates a morning regime of contraction, of weight, of unresolved energy that colors the entire day's frequency without them knowing why. I knew a man, I will call him Gerald, who used a photo of his late father as his lock screen. He had never considered changing it. He had used it for 6 years as a form of tribute. But his relationship with his father had been complicated, there was love, and there was also unresolved pain, old arguments, things unsaid before his father died. Every morning, before Gerald had done anything else, he was stepping into that complexity. He was starting every day with a frequency that mixed love with grief, with guilt. He had been doing this for 6 years and wondered why his financial life felt perpetually unresolved. He did not get rid of his father's photo. He moved it to the home screen. The screen he opened intentionally when he chose to. The lock screen, the screen that greeted him involuntarily, every morning he changed to the prosperity image. Within 3 weeks, he described his mornings as different. He could not explain exactly how, but different. And the months that followed were different too. Examine what is on your lock screen right now with honest eyes. Does it expand you or contract you? Does it open something or close something? The prosperity image only works if it is what you see first. If something with unresolved weight precedes it, the sequence is broken before it begins. Sarah Goldstein, 46 years old. Phoenix, Arizona. She had worked for 11 years as a freelance graphic designer, talented, experienced, with a client base that had once been varied and reliable. Over the previous 2 years, her client base had aged. Long-term clients had reduced their budgets or brought design work in-house. New clients were harder to find than they had been. Sarah had a website, a portfolio, a professional reputation, and a pipeline that had thinned to something she no longer trusted to hold her. She had also, without realizing it, developed a habit that made everything worse. Every morning, before she did anything else, she checked 3 things: her email for client responses that weren't there, her bank balance that hadn't changed enough, and her phone's photo library, which opened automatically to a series of screenshots she had taken of unpaid invoices and late payment notices. She had been doing this for so long that it had become invisible, an unconscious morning ritual of confirming scarcity before the day had even begun. A neighbor introduced her to the lock screen practice at a community event. Sarah was skeptical in the way creative professionals often are about anything that sounds too simple. But she was also, as she put it, out of more complicated ideas. She spent 20 minutes that evening finding a gold hamsa with high image she genuinely loved. She set it as her lock screen. She wrote the morning declaration on a sticky note and placed it on her nightstand. She began the practice the next morning, after exactly 7 days. An inquiry arrived from a type of client she had never worked with before, a wellness brand that had found her portfolio through a platform she had joined and almost immediately forgotten about. They were not looking for a quote. They were looking for a long-term design partner. The conversation moved quickly. After 13 days, a former client reappeared, a marketing director who had moved companies and was now building a new brand from the ground up. She wanted Sarah specifically. She had thought of her, she said, because of the quality of work they had done together 3 years ago. That work had been good. Sarah had simply stopped believing anyone remembered it. After 4 weeks, Sarah had more active client conversations than at any point in the previous 2 years. She raised her rates for the first time in 3 years, half expecting the new clients to decline. Not one of them did. After 6 weeks, she was turning down work for the first time since the contraction had begun. She said to me, "The first thing I changed was what I saw when I woke up. That's it." I stopped beginning every morning by confirming that not enough had arrived yet. I started beginning every morning by declaring that it was already on the way. I don't know where the line is between psychology and spirituality. I don't think it matters. The image worked. What Sarah described, stopping the morning confirmation of scarcity, is the practice the rabbis called hargashat, mela, the feeling of fullness. Not a feeling manufactured from nothing, but a feeling cultivated deliberately through practice, through the repeated act of choosing what you place before your eyes and your attention. In Jewish spiritual teaching, the morning is called shacharit, from the root, meaning dawn, but also meaning to seek, to search. The morning is the time of seeking. What you seek first in the morning determines what the day offers up. If you seek evidence of lack, the day will confirm it. If you seek evidence of abundance, if you begin with an image that carries the frequency of open channels and living prosperity, the day offers up evidence of that instead. This is not the power of positive thinking. It is something older and more specific than that. It is the understanding that human perception is selective, that we do not see everything that exists in our environment, only the portion that matches the frequency we are carrying. A person carrying the frequency of scarcity moves through a world full of abundance and sees the gaps. A person carrying the frequency of parnasah moves through the same world and sees the doors. The image changes the frequency. The frequency changes the perception. The perception changes what is acted upon. What is acted upon changes what arrives. Tikkun olam, the repair of the world, begins with the repair of perception. When you consecrate your morning visual field, you are repairing the lens through which you see everything that follows. You are, in Jewish terms, making the world more visible to yourself, not more pleasant necessarily, but more true. The truth is that abundance exists. The truth is that parnasah is real and designated and flowing. The image helps you see what was always there. Hashgacha pratit, divine individual providence, means that the opportunities in your life are individually arranged. They are not random. They are not distributed by luck. They are placed in your specific path at specific moments by a force that attends to your life with complete precision. The only question is whether you have the eyes to see them when they appear. The morning practice builds those eyes, one day at a time, one reshimu at a time, until seeing abundance becomes as natural and as automatic as breathing. I want to pause here for just a moment. If you have been watching this and you have already begun thinking about what is on your lock screen right now, if something in this teaching has made you look at your phone differently, that shift in awareness is itself the beginning of the reshimu. The impression is already forming. If this channel has been giving you teachings that you have actually used, that have actually changed something in how you move through your financial life, please subscribe right now. And write in the comments, "My mornings are changing. My abundance is increasing. I see it arriving." Let that declaration be part of your practice from this moment. Now, let me give you the amplifiers. Because the image alone is powerful, but there are specific additions that multiply what it does. The core, practice the gold hamsa with chai as your lock screen. The 30-second morning declaration is complete